And one of the things, one of the dialogues that took place, or the disagreements that took place, especially during the Cold War, but it's still going on today in various ways. In during the Cold War, there was a great division in the world, as many of you remember, between the Western idea of human rights and the so-called Eastern or communist idea in the Soviet Union and communist China of human rights. And the West said, human rights have to do with political freedom and speech and freedom of religion and so on. And all of them are coming out of the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights and so on. But the communists said, well, no, you in the West, you don't respect human rights because you allow massive poverty, you allow misery in people and so on. But we in the East, we respect human rights, they said, because we give people food, clothing, and shelter, and Social Security, and we guarantee them a job and so on. And the point that I want to make here is that human rights are not cultural, right? Of course, they're mediated culturally, right? We have emphases in different traditions, different cultural traditions, but if human rights arise from human dignity is not something that is cultural. It's mediated culturally, sure. In different religions, the human dignity might be articulated in different ways and so on. But human dignity has to do, as I've been saying in this presentation, with something about human consciousness, human self-consciousness. Each of us, this dynamism of a present moment, integrating its past into a present that projects for itself a utopian future, a utopian horizon that is different from the past, and so on. This human dignity is universal, and so cultural debates over human rights are misguided in that sense. That we need both, right? We need both the so-called communist idea or socialist idea of human rights. The philosopher Alan Gayworth wrote a number of books about this, very, very powerful books, in which he distinguishes between freedom and well-being. The well-being rights, right? Social Security, adequate remuneration for our work, free education, health care, and so on. The well-being rights are just as fundamental as the freedom rights. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of protest, and so on. And Alan Gayworth made a powerful argument that government is, if government represents the people, government is supposed to represent the common good, that it is responsible for both those dimensions, right? There's two kinds of rights, but they're integrated together under the heading of freedom and well-being. And if you're familiar with the UN Universal Declaration, it does include both dimensions of rights, right? Article 25 of the UN Universal Declaration says everyone has a right to a standard of living adequate for himself and his family, right? Everyone has a right to Social Security and protection in case of illness or old age and so on. So I want to emphasize this, that it's not a cultural issue here, that we're looking at something more primordial, our common humanity, right, which is what human dignity points toward.